what a ceasefire sounds like in eastern Ukraine. Despite a truce agreed to more than a month ago, the fighting at Donetsk city airport has continued unabated as anti-Kiev rebels battle with Ukrainian forces for control. They are trying to push the government troops out of their last outpost in the rebels' main stronghold. It has been a fierce battle. The airport is now a wasteland of rubble.
Ну, криминальные здания подходят и так под нашим контролем, и все остальное находится под нашим контролем. Самое главное — освободить близлежащий населенный пункт, который находится на направлении в сторону аэропорта города Донецка. Чтобы наконец-то мирный город Донецк и его жители зажили спокойной жизнью.
Despite boasting of their recent gains, the rebels insist they have been sticking to the ceasefire and say they only respond to incoming fire. But Kiev gives a completely different report, saying its troops have repelled daily raids on their airport positions. On Saturday, the rebel leadership announced that both sides have agreed to silence their artillery and could soon start withdrawing their heavy weapons from the front line.
Режим тишины должен соблюдаться не только в плане того, чтобы не стрелять друг друга. Вот, пожалуйста, это режим тишины, вы в данный момент слышите. Кто по ним сейчас стрелял? Я стою перед вами, команды никакие не давал. Без меня мой батальон не стреляет.
Serious ceasefire violations have been reported almost daily during the past month, with both sides accusing each other of breaking the truce. And during the first day of this new pledge to stop shooting, the guns are certainly not silent here. Kate Parkinson, CCTV, Donetsk, in eastern Ukraine. This does not look like a conflict that is going to end soon. The war has dragged on for months now. More than 5,000 people have been killed. A ceasefire agreed in September, although never fully enforced, has now completely collapsed. But any hopes that a new truce deal would be reached on Saturday were quickly dashed. As representatives from Kiev and the rebel territories met in Minsk, separatist forces were dug in, reinforcing their frontline positions and continuing their offensive. The fighting is particularly fierce around the Ukrainian-held town of Debaltseve, around 80 kilometers northeast of the rebel stronghold Donetsk. The rebels say they have Kiev's forces surrounded. This artillery battalion is part of their ring of fire.
Подразделение выполняет поставленную задачу по недопущению прорыва из кольца укропов. Дебальцевский котел, вы слышали, наверное? Вот мы и закрыли этот котел. Полностью окружен, полностью под нашим контролем. Наш президент предложил сдаться. Кто не смог, не услышал, не захотел. Но они здесь найдут свою погибель.
As the sun set, fighting raged on. There is no ceasefire, no agreement to pull back heavy weapons, and no end in sight for this bitter conflict. Ukrainian tanks on the one road to Debaltseve that's still under Kiev's control. The military says pro-Russian separatists appear to be amassing forces around the besieged town and planning a fresh offensive. The rebels have been steadily encroaching on Debaltseve, but Kiev says it is confident its forces have the firepower and the manpower to hold on to the strategic town. Their home turned into a battlefield, residents of Debaltseve say they are at breaking point. Around 3,000 people still live here, a small fraction of of the town's pre-conflict population of 25,000. These people are queuing for food supplies. They say help doesn't come very often. Every day, more and more people are leaving, taking with them only what they can carry and not knowing if they will ever return.
Не знаем, куда мы едем, мы просто уезжаем от войны, от холода, без света, без тепла, без газа, без ничего. У нас ничего нету. Мы три недели сидим без света. В квартире +1. Ребенок уже просто я не знаю, куда мне его девать.
But for some, leaving is not an option. Despite the difficult conditions, the daily shelling, and the sleepless nights for his son, Oleg says he has to stay.
А куда? Ну вот куда старикам идти? Куда им идти? По 70, по 80 лет. Что делать? Так я хоть кипяточка им нагреваю, жена супчика сварит.
Кипяточком спасает.
Потому что, ну, действительно людям очень тяжело. И ехать некуда.
At a train station about 90 kilometers away from Debaltseve, these carriages are being used as temporary accommodation for people who fled the fighting. The United Nations says more than 1 million people have been displaced by this conflict. Some people here tell me they'll go and stay with relatives elsewhere in Ukraine. Others say they don't know where they're going to end up. But the one thing everyone here has in common is they say it's simply too dangerous for them to stay at home right now. Kate Parkinson, CCTV in eastern Ukraine.